I want to do something completely different today. Unlike anything else we have built in Marathon Cove, today we're moving into the mountains in the valley away from our California-inspired coast. We are going to build a mountain mine along with a mountain town that follows the creek. We will also add in a bit of mystery to this build, just in time for Halloween. In order to get this build going, we need to create some flat land along the creek's edge. We want this to look natural, as though the valley floor was made wider by the geological forces that created the valley in the first place. The valley will also give us the space to build our mine, our town, and a special mysterious something for Halloween. We will take our dirt road back along the valley floor, having it twist and wind with the creek. We then want to start creating the space where the mine was built. The mine has probably been here for ages, slowly digging through the mountains for ore, minerals, or other resources. We want this mine to have layers, as though they have slowly dug it out. We will also create a train line stub. I suppose that this rail line goes into the mountain mine. For the mine asset, we will set this up into the hills just a little bit, and not right at the bottom. We do want a bit of mystery here. What exactly are they looking for? And, more importantly, what did they find that they were not expecting when they built the tunnel into the mountain? Now you may be wondering what a college dean like myself is doing creating a horror trailer in City Skylines 2. To be honest, I am not the biggest fan of horror, but I do love Halloween, and that is what inspired me. It seems like there's a story here. The rest of Marathon Cove has been luxury beaches, golf resorts, our university, and retirement communities. But what brought folks up here in the first place? What did they find in the mountain? And what happened to the people? There's definitely a story, and I would love to know what you think. Please share your thoughts. And while you're at it, let me know if you like Halloween. We are not doing too much with our detailing on the mine. The boulders and rocks give the perfect touch. The concrete piles also look like rocks. We can move the little rocks out of the way. We will then surround the mine with our mountain forest. We want this to appear as if they dug right into the middle of the mountain. We can then add some digging and other mining equipment, but they are way too bright and clean looking, so we can use the recolor mod to turn the color down a bit, making them appear a bit grungier. What do you think of this mine? If you like it, please give this video a like. Now assume that the mine needs supporting buildings. For those, we can add in a small manufacturing building. We can also add in a small office for the mine's managers and owners. Since this is a mountain town, I would prefer that these be made of wood. The best we can do is to find the right shade of brown. We want them to appear a bit rustic. Once we remove a few props and adjust the color, we can start to add in the nearby homesteads for the workers. For these, we will use small European and North American low-density residential. Some of the smallest and lowest level look like trailer homes and old cabins. We want them to look like ramshackle mountain houses, so we will remove the ground and pavement textures that come with them. We can also remove any hedges and the nicer fences. We will then copy over our brown color pattern with the recolor mod to make them look like cabins. We don't want any color. This town, if you can call it that, is just a collection of homes that follows along the dirt road by the creek and the mountain. We want them to look crammed in to the available space. We don't want it to look too planned or organized. It's important to hand place these to make sure to alternate various depths and widths and styles so that you don't feel the repetition of assets. This variation helps with the feeling of being a bit haphazard and old. We also want to remove the surfaces and hedges that come with these properties. We will now detail lots with new surfaces using Sully's riverbed textures. We can use darker mud and dirt textures for the driveways and walkways. We will then surround the dirt with varying degrees of grass. I'm curious what stories you come up with for this valley and these inhabitants. Did some of these people move here before the mine? Or did the mine come first and everyone else later? This layering approach creates the effect that these are just homesteads and cabins. They are off the beaten path, and the folks who live up here do not have very much. The trick with putting these down is to make each one completely different. The crazier the shape you make, the more realistic it looks. The grass is patchy and not cared for. You can use 2 different shades of dirt if you want to have more layers. In some places, it might make sense to add a pathway to the front door. It would be great at some point if we got access to more rural and small town assets. City Skylines is in general geared towards larger, nicer cities, but building a rundown, less wealthy community like this can be a lot of fun, particularly when you're adapting to the environment around it, or when there's a story. The river provides the perfect background. Speaking of the river, let's move across to the other side of the creek. The small, 2-lane covered bridge is the perfect piece of infrastructure to add in here. It makes sense that this valley floor has been worn down on both sides, probably through thousands of years of floodwaters draining down while leaving behind sediment. With increasing temperatures and less snow level in the winter, the creek level has been much lower for years, allowing folks to settle along the bank. We will take the same approach as we did on the other side, adding in the small, low-density lots. We will place them of varying sizes and depths in order to create the realistic look. Once the surfaces are removed, the small houses and trailers look scattered along the edge of the creek. We can do the lot cleanup, including removing hedges and fences. We have not removed the planted bushes and greenhouses, and I'm not sure whether they should stay or go. What are your thoughts on that? On this side of the creek, we start to get even more creative with the surface shapes. It takes a bit longer to do, but the look is worth it. These lots really feel like they are in a remote rural area. We will now add in some power lines. This area may not have all the services, but power lines are appropriate, and they make the dirt roads look complete. Let's now add in some old cars to the lawn. We can also place down some junk piles. All of this enhances the look of the rural area. Next, we will add some stains to the dirt roads, making them a bit rough. Sometimes these dirt roads are just too clean. We will then take the mud decals and layer them over, making the roads look even more worn. And then we will place some stained decals on some of the roofs, giving the impression that these homesteads are in poor condition. Now let's add in some wild bushes. We can scatter them all around the lots. And in many cases, the trailers and cabins have been set up in the midst of the nature around it. But some of these bushes will have grown up after they were built. The bushes also help hide some of the surface lines, and they enhance the realism. So what else do you think we need? I think a small water tower would have been appropriate, but I didn't think of that until too late. Perhaps there are other props, though, that would work. What do you recommend? To complete this area, we should also detail the creek. The riverbed surface will give it a darker look. One end runs out of the mine area. So is that all natural water, or has it been polluted? So what's the story of this place? Scattering boulders in the water and along the edge make it more natural. The sunken oak tree creates the impression of natural shrubs. We can then scatter some logs around, giving the impression that some trees have fallen down, perhaps due to age or weather or earthquakes. This is a wild valley. It would have made a great national park. All of this creek rushes towards a ledge. We can make a bit of a slope here to get the water down towards the cliff. We will then add in some seafoam decals to look like a waterfall. Rocks around the top and the bottom complete the look. Some sunken oak trees hide the edges and make it look overgrown. I'm not sure if it's possible, but in some future update, I would love it if the water would actually have a waterfall effect. But what makes this valley so scary and the perfect place for a Halloween tale? Let's add a cemetery. This is actually a rather large cemetery for such a small set of cabins and homesteads, but perhaps this is an area that has been inhabited for a long time, even before the more recent mine. This is part of the story that needs to be told, and that will explain our opening cinematics. Putting in some trees, we will change them to their dead state with the tree controller mod. Something is not quite right in the cemetery. And how is that connected to the mind? Or to our opening trailer? The riverbed surfaces create a path through the cemetery and show that the land is not cared for. We can place some additional grave markers one by one. I wish we had the random option that we did for the boulders. That would have sped things up. Adding in a few rows makes this look like a unique custom asset. We will then go to our net lanes and place down a fence. This should also be a bit haphazard. We will surround all of this with bushes and trees. Keeping the cemetery enclosed by nature makes the dead trees stand out even more. Let's add in a few more surfaces and then place some decals. So, what exactly did the mining company find when it dug deep into the earth? Perhaps they unleashed something onto this town. Who or what was buried in the cemetery? And are they still buried? What brought all these people to the valley? And why do they stay? Or are the homes now empty? So many questions to consider, and the imagination can run wild. Marathon Cove may never be the same. Something very dark has happened here. Please share your thoughts or just leave your favorite Halloween emoji. I hope you enjoyed this Halloween episode as much as I did. And if you were not scared away by the mystery, then check out the next episode.